Hello and welcome to the Serpent Temple podcast. This week we're doing a weekly review. We're going to be reviewing 3 albums. The first will be Friends of Hell, releasing their debut album, Friends of Hell. Then we are going to be doing Slaegt,
Yeah,
I believe.
close enough.
Yeah. And their album Goddess, released also this year. And then Meshuggah, Immutable, released merely a week ago.
Yeah, but a week and 1 day ago.
A week and a day ago.
Right.
So what do you think of Friends of Hell, Floyd?
Friends of Hell, the album Friends of Hell by the band Friends of Hell, featuring the song Friends of Hell as
Indeed,
well.
yes.
Went for the trifecta.
Aha.
No, this is interesting. Doom and stoner isn't something that's generally my wheelhouse. But give a little bit of background on the band. So this is the new project of Albert Witchfinder, who is the vocalist of the legendary band Reverend Bizarre.
Indeed.
Who still never listened to Reverend Bizarre. I'll get around to it at some point.
They're good.
But I will check them out. Yeah, so he is performing vocals. You've got Taz on drums, who is a former Electric Wizard bassist,
Indeed.
based on the album Black Masses, I believe.
Good album.
Tonelli Java on bass, and just the name John Dix on guitars. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this album. How does this, in your opinion, stack up to other kind of Doom releases? Because you are far more well-versed in the subgenre than I am.
I guess my Doom is as death metal as to you, I suppose. Yeah. Although I love both. Yeah, this is a great album. It's really cool to hear an album like this coming out like now. Like 2021, 2022. It's really dirty and heavy, and it's got like modern-esque production, but it still has that old school vibe, which I really like. I do love a good blast of like very old Doom, which is quite rare now. A lot of Doom is like more hybridized, like the Doom we play in Lowen. And then like most Doom is like more bluesy, stony, American influence from like Sleep and Acid King and things like that, whereas this is like proper old school British Doom.
Yeah, this is like proper like sort of like pentagram, Candlemas, like cathedral style.
Huge cathedral influence, and it has been released on Rise Above Records.
Of course, Lee Dorian's label.
Lee Dorian's label. They've got a free album deal, so obviously Lee Dorian really believes in this, and rightly so. Also, John Dix or John D, I don't really know the best way, I apologize, is an amazing artist. He's an incredible tattoo artist. He did the shirt design that we had last year.
Oh, no way. Oh, cool.
Yeah. That he's just really bloody talented. So yeah, it's like it's really cool that this is kind of a super group to me, because like Taz, I remember seeing Taz when I first saw Electric Wizard play live.
Yeah.
I think he was in the lineup. And I thought he looked really cool because he's covered in tattoos, like all over his face.
I got like face tattoos as well.
Yeah, and like I think I was a teenager at the time, so I just thought he was really cool. And I remember I was at High Voltage, and he walked past me and just randomly stuck his tongue out at me and made like a weird face. And that was the only time I've ever had any form of interaction with him since or prior. I just remember him as Sticky Out Tongue Man from High Voltage.
Sticky Out Tongue Man.
Yeah.
It's funny now, face tattoos have kind of been adopted by all the mumble rappers now. Your Post
my
Malones
God.
of the world. And
I probably can't go to any club without being asked when his EPs drop in.
yeah. Give me a SoundCloud link, bro.
Oh my goodness. No, yeah, it's a really cool group. I'm really excited about where they're going to go with this music. And obviously, like, they've got Albert Witchfinder, who's a brilliant vocalist. His vocals are so good on this album. It's kind of like I'm really hit or miss with this style of clean vocal, but I think he does it really, really well. And he's Albert Witchfinder, and it's Friends of Hell, but the name Friends of Hell is actually the name of the second album by Witchfinder General. So it's like a lot of Witchfinder witch connections in their music.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I love it. When bands just go all out with the puns in the album titles, and it's. Do you know what? I was getting a bit of a King Diamond style vibe off the vocals and some of the music at times. That's what I kind of really dug about the album. It's quite a good blend of those different traditional sounds, like that classic Doom, and like that kind of like that epic like Candlemas style Doom as well, mixed with like more of like a new wave of British heavy metal kind of like aesthetic as well.
They got those like dirty riffs, like the more evil style, like modern, like what's the word? It's not intimidating. It's like something. It's something
sinister.
Sinister. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, and then like pagan altar style
Yeah.
vocals as well. But yeah, the King Diamond, when he's Into My Coffin, probably my favorite song on the album, and it reminds me of Coven's Come to the Sabbath.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a really similar like choral structure for me. It's probably my favorite song by
That was a great track. It was thrashier as well, wasn't it? It was like
Yeah.
a little bit more theatrical and kind of charismatic. It reminded me a bit of. Have you ever listened to Hell? UK Hell?
Not with the E on the end.
No, so this is just standard Hell, but
Just
it's
normal
got
Hell.
this is Andy Sneap's band.
Oh yeah.
Before he went and started kind of subbing in for Tipton in Priest. And yeah, it has that same level of kind of like theatrics to it and just that kind of flair that you don't get too much in a lot of more modern metal. Because I think modern metal either tends to be kind of quite sterile or a bit too serious sometimes.
Yeah.
Whereas like this has that old school kind of like, I don't want to use the word cheesy, but just that nostalgic kind of tried and tested formula that worked so well for that like those 80s and 70s bands back in the days.
Totally.
And with a total modern production, like it sounds fresh, it sounds new, like it doesn't sound sort of hackneyed and derivative of, you know, material that has kind of predated it, that is, well, I don't want to say influenced it, because it seems like a lot of members of this band were directly involved in creating the music from those periods. So.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. I want to see him do like an Alice Cooper style stage show and like see them perform these songs. I'd really love that. I don't know if it's too cheesy for them to do, but I'd love to see something like that.
You've seen Alice Cooper live?
Yeah, he's so good live.
I've heard it's meant to just be amazing.
It's really, really, really good. His like live band is amazing as well. Like he has this guitarist called Orianthe, and she's like fucking sick. But then he's also got like people being decapitated and like prosthetics and just crazy stuff going on. Like I remember watching a documentary. I think when he used to decapitate himself on stage, and the first few times it caused like so much hoo-ha, which is funny because now we just do not care. Like you go on Instagram and you can see real life decapitated people.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what we were doing before the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's but it's the same time. It's not the same as it was back then in terms of the shock value, but now it's entertaining still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it's what was the name of the Alice Cooper guitarist you mentioned?
Orianthe.
Okay, because I remember he had the other guitarist. Was it Nita Strauss? Was not Alice Cooper's guitarist for a bit?
Orianthe was there too.
I only know that because she's done a lot of work with WWE recently.
Oh, is it?
So I've
That's
seen
so
her
cool.
name pop up quite a few times. Because I think she's quite young. I think she's like my age. Well, young to me. Probably old to some people, but
Yeah, she's performed with Alice Cooper. So maybe this was a different era. Oh my god, she used to rehearse with Michael Jackson.
oh no way.
Damn.
That's cool.
Damn, you must be good if Michael Jackson's choosing you.
But yeah, you know, you touched on a good point. That's what's cool about this album, because I think there's so many retro elements to it, to the album cover, you know, the subject matter, the lyrical things. But I think, you know, it takes a truly skilled band or group of projects to, you know, keep those elements, which would have been probably, you know, more tiresome with a less skilled band and project. So
Yeah.
and it's just because I think it's probably just genuine. It's obvious that they just created the music that they wanted to create, and it was just more a project born out of love than anything else.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting to find out they got a free album deal, because it would be cool to see how they go on from here.
Yeah, I feel the same. I was reading, they did like an interview that they posted on the Rise Above website to go with like their album. So obviously something that like things they want you to hear when you're kind of reading about them. They say, like Taz says, lyrics are influenced by 70s horror movies, Satanism, death and torture. Pretty obvious if you look at the names like Into My Coffin, Belial's Bell, Wallachia, Shadow the Impaler, etc. And there's only a few paths. In our opinion, when you play heavy music, there's only a few paths you can go down with lyrics. We don't like personal stories or social, political subjects in this kind of music. We like dark and epic stuff on a grandiose level. Yeah. So it's very different from like very different from Meshuggah, let's put it like that, which we're reviewing later, which is very much social political lyrical subject matter. So this is definitely like the opposite.
Yeah, and not your classic Napalm Death style.
Yeah, I think there's a place for all of that in metal. But there's, you know, I respect their opinion to a degree for sure. It's a traditional. They're like a traditional band. It's a traditional approach, and I think there's room for everything as long as you're not forcing other people out, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I think, you know, at the end of the day, I think, you know, no one's stopping anyone from writing whatever it is they want to write and sing about. But I think, with the current climate, like people need to understand that there is a large percentage of people getting into music who are looking for bands that are commenting on the shit that's going on.
Yeah.
And, there is always going to be a percentage of people that connect far more, intrinsically with bands that are more, on the button with what's going on than bands that, because the thing is, it's like, like take power metal as a subgenre, for example. I know loads of people that don't listen to power metal just because I just can't get past like the nonsensical, like lyrical matter or the subject matter.
Yeah.
And it's just, and I get that, but it's, for me, I'm the sort of guy where, like, I think as I've gotten older, I've diversified my tastes a bit and realized that, that death metal is still king. But it's not, not
Power metal's your queen.
Yeah. Power metal's the jester, the court jester. But like there's a time and place where I love Blind Guardian, I love Halloween, and and Halloween's got some absolutely ridiculous lyrics.
They do.
But it just depends on how I'm feeling, and then to your point, I think that's why it's good that there is bands doing different things and covering different areas of lyrical subject matter as well as different musical directions as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if King Diamond did an album that was a social political commentary on like the economic conditions of Thatcherite Britain, I would be like, this is a bit weird.
Yeah.
And maybe it would be amazing, actually. I kind of want to hear it. But like, there are days where, I mean, I think everything we do is always a reaction to our environment, and naturally that's going to involve social political things. And sometimes that reaction is, I want to listen to songs about vampires and werewolves because I'm fucking sick of the economy and I'm sick of hearing about this shit that's going on in the world, and that's fine. And then other days you want to listen to some Napalm Death, and that's totally cool too.
Yeah, there you go. So listen to whatever you want. Yeah,
just do whatever the fuck you want, just don't kill anyone. Into My Coffin is a banger.
It's a great track. My favourite track's probably Gateless Gate. And the title kind of lured me in because I was thinking, what is
a gateless gate?
A gateless gate.
I love it. What is that? It's gateless, and it's funny because guitarist John Dix is also in Mercury Gates. That's another one of his bands.
I did see that, yeah. When I was looking up the encyclopedia of all that is metal, Encyclopedia Metallum.
Indeed.
But yeah, it's like, God, who is it that updates all those pages? Like,
it's amazing.
Like people are on it, right?
So whenever, this is like kind of a silly thing I do sometimes, whenever I make like an announcement that involves something to do with the band, I will sometimes check to see how quickly it's updated, and it's updated literally within minutes sometimes. It's insane.
Fucking odd.
It's so cool.
And it's not you two doing it, is
no,
it?
No, I've never ever done it. I don't even know how to update it. So, I mean, like, it's a mystery. It's just amazing that there's all these like shadowy figures encyclopediaing, like recording and filing away every action you do. If you're a musician, it's so cool.
I'm just picturing just the archetypal like metal nerd on like this old computer, like Windows 98, just like still waiting for their mum to get off the call so they could connect to the internet to update everything.
They've done an announcement. I need the dial-up.
Yeah. But it's, I tell you what, that's one of my favourite games to ever play as well, is on that website. You go on to Encyclopedia Metallum, Metal Archives, and you click Random Band, and then you just see where the fuck it takes you.
Amazing.
And there is some fucking gold out there. You just see some of the greatest, cringiest band pictures and just some of the most hidden gems. Like they maybe released like an 8-track cassette in the 80s, and then that was it, disbanded. But it's just amazing.
It's legendary. I love that there are people whose passion is doing that. Like, it's great. Someone needs to be doing it, because when we all die in a nuclear holocaust, there will be aliens that find metal archives, and they will go through metal archives, and there'll be like children aliens in classrooms in another galaxy in 2 million years time going, so yes, Afterbirth had 5 members, like, and they'll just be like studying all this shit. They'll be like, yeah, this band, like, they fell out with their bassist and he like went away, and it's just
they're going to be the new gods to the new civilization.
Yeah.
They'll be like the Dark Lord Varg from Burzum.
No. The Dark Lord. Yeah, they'll think he's like some Voldemort figure. They'll think J.K. Rowling is actually about the black metal Norwegian.
It's I've got to do that one day. Just pick who would be like the metal gods. You'd have obviously Rob Halford, your Dimebags, Lemmy, Ozzy.
Ozzy would be like the Loki figure.
Yeah.
The court jester.
I'd add Michael Ackerfeld in there just for.
Oh, he would be Balder, I think.
Bowser.
Balder, not
Balder.
Bowser.
He's
Bowser.
Oh, that's a strange segue.
No, who would Bowser? Bowser would be the guy from Testament.
What, Chuck Billy?
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking Dino Cazares personally,
That's
but we're
better.
thinking along the same lines.
Yeah. Who's Mario?
Oh God. No clue. I'm drawing blanks here.
Princess Peach's Euronymous.
Yeah.
You know why? You know the picture I'm
That
talking
thick boy.
to. Thick.
But yes, Gateless Gate, my favorite track. Going back to this album, it's got a really, really cool, uber groovy section in about 2 minutes 50 seconds into the track. I'm a sucker for a palm muted riff and just the rhythm section kind of going off. I love the drum work on this album as well. I like when the drum keeps in time nicely with the bass. Bass is super audible as well. Like it's just grooving along great with the guitars. I think some of the guitar lines are absolutely fantastic. Nothing's overplayed. Everything's thought out and composed in a manner that is just totally fucking enjoyable. This album is just such a vibe. You just put it on and listen to it, whereas like it's almost like the antithesis to like a Meshuggah album in a way for some people. Because I feel like Meshuggah can be, and I mean this as a compliment, a chore at times with how technically challenging they can be as a band, despite all their grooviness. Whereas like this, you could just stick on and just like have it as background music and just fucking vibe away on like a hot summer's day.
Yeah, this is very summer music. I think, you're totally right. Meshuggah is like this cold, unfeeling mechanical machine that will chew you up and spit you out. Whereas this is like a very tailored, evil approach. Like a very, it's going to come out, get you, like make you go in its coffin, fucking kill you real good. Whereas Meshuggah doesn't fucking care. It's like a conveyor belt of death. Of death? Of death? I was going off of death, a conveyor belt of death. This is great. I love this. This is evil, it's groovy, it's beastly, and vampiric. Go and check it out. You will have a good time. I have written big cathedral pagan altar, but eviler and duttier.
That's a South London and you coming out there. Duttier.
Dutty. Yeah, this is great. I love it. Thank you for this banger of an album. Shall we move on to Slaegt?
Yes. So this is the album Goddess, also released this year. So in the band, you've got Oscar J. Fredrickson on vocals, guitar, and organ. All Bergholz on bass and vocals. Adam, he has a real name, but his name on Metal Archives is C.C. Squell, which I'm guessing...
What is that?
No idea. Couldn't find anything, but I'm guessing that's a pseudonym of some sort on drums.
Okay.
Anders M. Jorgensen on lead guitars and organ. Saxophone and synthesizers.
Nice.
It was also mastered by Magnus Lindberg as well, so the mastering genius. Yeah.
Great guy.
You guys should look into it.
It's funny because we did. That's the joke.
And this is also so that they're from Copenhagen, Denmark, and this is their first album on Century Media. My first exposure to this band was actually I saw them play live at Roadburn in 2019.
No way, that's so cool.
Yeah, they were super, super cool, super tight, super energetic. They're one of those bands that, even though musically it's not similar to Midnight and Hell Ripper, but they are kind of doing a similar thing in the sense that they're combining a lot of the kind of nuances and sounds of the classic heavy metal and speed metal sounds and kind of merging it with black metal. But they're doing it in a completely kind of more, I'd say they're doing it in a more kind of cerebral fashion as how kind of Midnight and Hell Ripper are doing it, because they are more kind of like, balls to the wall. Like, it's just more like a blackened Motorhead, basically. Whereas like Slaegt are more, I think, it's funny because when you listen to their discography, they started as more kind of like a second wave, almost like, like worship band, and progressively, like the classic influences are becoming more and more prominent to the point where I feel like it's kind of culminated in this album. And what's cool about this album, what I like, is that the production is a lot more janglier on this album than it is on the previous ones. So it's interesting to hear how those kind of like traditional sounds have been melded with the more extreme metal sounds in a manner that is just, kind of discordant a lot of times. But I really, really like this album. I'm quite interested to hear what you've got to say about it.
I really liked it a lot as well. I think the production is like very masterfully done. Like, as you say, I think it's really interesting because normally I don't like music with that kind of shrill mid element to it. But something about this, like Fealty Thunderwhip, the riff at the beginning is so striking and unique to me.
That's such a fucking catchy song as well.
Yeah. There's something about it. I can't put my finger on it. And there's like, you've got these really shrill, discordant guitars, and then counterintuitively, the vocals are like really low and like bassy in a good way. It's like very resonant at the same time, and then everything else is around that. So the guitars are kind of at the forefront. They're almost like the vocals in a way.
Yeah.
I don't know, but not all the time, obviously. I really like that setup. that they've got going. It's unique to
Yeah,
me.
because I feel like it almost sounds organic and live in the way it's been produced, because every instrument kind of does stand out. You know, like you could I feel that the drums are quite prominent in the mix.
Yeah.
Which is good because the drumming is actually pretty like stellar on this album. Like there's a lot of shit
groovy.
going on, like some great like ride and cymbal use and just some interesting kind of patterns he's playing. And once again, yeah, similar to the Friends of Hell album, I think the bass work is also super audible here as well. And you know, he's locked in tight with the drummer, and also you know providing his own grooves while the guitars are off doing their own kind of like strange, spidery musings.
Yeah, it is
But
spidery.
it's it's really great. I mean, I think this album kind of, and this is going back to a point I was making on the previous episode. Can't remember which one, but how I like when a band takes the time to think about how an album's going to be constructed, and you know, like song placement and stuff. And I feel like really, this album is all the other tracks are kind of just a build up to the last track, the title track, Goddess, which I think is far and away the best track on the album. Like it's the longest track as well because it's 11 minutes, but it's just such a perfect blend of all the styles of the previous tracks and previous albums and what they're going for, just kind of merged into one. I think some of the leads on this track are just absolutely stunning. Like about 450 minutes in, it's got some really like cool emotive lead work and just some of my favorite guitar work on the album. And once again, it's just, I think it's that combination of like that new wave of British heavy metal and that 70s rock sound and those classic kind of, you know, early metal prototype stylings mixed with a more extreme form of metal that really get me going. Much in the same way that Enslaved do. That's why I like Enslaved so much, because they also, like bands like Enslaved and Opeth, do such a great job of merging their influences of the music they like and doing it in a way where they've created a sound that's unique to them.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound too disjointed, because I think it's easy for stuff to sound like just a mishmash of styles and to just not sound good at all.
It's interesting because, like you're talking about the influences, I really got a massive Wishbone Ash influence on this.
I can see that, yeah.
Because it's got the twin lead guitars.
Yeah.
But they've obviously made it their own by making it really dissonant. So it's kind of like a sort of diminished fifth Carcass approach, almost the way they've done it. So that, I think that's the main thing. I finally put my finger on it after you said that. That's the thing I really like.
Yeah.
Because those twin leads like really flesh out like the high shrill mids and then like bring everything together, I think, in a really interesting way. Like this album feels like a fantasy novel to me.
Yeah.
The way it kind of plays out. And I love the song names. They're so fun. Like Deceived by an Amethyst is such a good song name. I wish I thought of it myself. It's such a good name for a song. And then like Stabbit, Bloody Stabbit is hilarious. It's such a good name too. And yeah, Kiss from a Knife, like, oh, that's so hardcore. I love that.
Yeah, it's you know what? It's funny you mentioned Carcass actually, because I actually thought the vocal patterns were very Jeff Walker kind of inspired.
Yeah.
You know, even like the delivery, like, you know, it's enunciate, all the words are enunciated quite well, and it's not like too not too cartoonish, the vocal styles. But yeah, and just the word, the phrasing and the placement and everything just totally reminded me of Carcass at times.
Yeah, this is a real masterwork of an album. I really, really enjoy this. Do you know which release it is? Because I remember looking on the Metal Archives, and they had like quite a few releases, but like lots of EPs and things. Is it like the third album?
Did the split with a band called White Meadow. I think that was when they first became quite prominent on the scene. And he's got Ilsvanger, which was their first album, and then there was a couple more. Dom Mysterium was another one.
Huh.
This is their, I want to say, fourth full length.
Okay.
But they had a great EP called I forgot the name.
Oh no!
The Beautiful and the Damned of what I got in my head. Luckily, I've already got their Metal Archives loaded up. Yes, I remembered Beautiful and Damned, which is just a short, like 3-4 track EP, and that has like it's absolutely lush. Like the production on that sounds absolutely amazing, and it's just like first time I listened to that, I was like, this is like Iron Maiden mixed with black metal, but not the shit parts of Iron Maiden that I don't like.
That's a lot of Iron Maiden. I'm joking.
This is their fourth album release.
Fourth. That's really, it's a great. I love this. I hope this gets them sort of. I don't know how big they are. Obviously, if they're playing Roadburn, they're not small.
Yeah.
but I feel like this will deservedly make them more on the map than they already are.
I think they're on the cusp because this is the first release on Century Media, and I feel like
Yes,
that
as you
is
say.
definitely a sign that you've got like a bit of backing or a bit of support from like the big labels anyway, and the scene at large. Like, because I don't think Century Media are in a position really where they're going to be taking a gamble on too many bands. It's always a tricky one, and I don't know if you found this, but like in the UK, you kind of feel a little bit segregated from the rest of the European music scene, and you can never really gauge what's big on the other side of the pond.
Yeah.
And I feel like, like take a band like Volbeat, for example. They're fucking huge in Europe.
Weird.
They play stadiums. Like, they're like the biggest band. But like, but over here, like, I mean, like, there's probably a few people that know Volbeat. Because I think they had a song on Guitar Hero once, so I think there's a few people. Huh?
But they're nowhere near as big here. This was on a Damnation podcast I was listening to a while back. He was talking to a booker, and he was talking about how Volbeat, like, they have to book completely different shows in the UK to Europe because of the difference in scale between like how many tickets they'll shift in Europe compared to the UK.
And they're still big here as well, though, right? Like, they will still like that. They will probably fill out. Guessing Wembley SSE here, maybe.
Yeah, but they don't. I don't think they get top billing here, whereas they do, I think, in Europe. Well, this was, I think, to do with maybe download, like they're billing on like a festival. I mean, like they're not going to necessarily headline a main stage here.
Yeah, I've always thought that Bloodstock would maybe take a punt on them one day, but I'm not even sure if they could even afford them. Because I mean, frankly, they get such amazing shows in Europe where they're playing like massive capacity venues.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to my point, I feel like it's hard for us to have our fingers on the pulse a lot of the times about how a band is doing, because we can only really gauge it on how well received they are in the UK.
Yeah.
And the thing is, us living in London, we get everyone coming to London. So like,
and London crowds are so reserved compared to European crowds as well.
Are they? See, I don't have any experience in European crowds, so I don't know.
You will soon.
Yeah.
European crowds are amazing.
Yeah.
They're not that, and there's nothing wrong with the UK crowd, but London crowd is a lot more reserved. I would say. I mean, obviously it depends on the genre, but if you go outside of London, crowds generally are more positive and like more expressive. And then in Europe, like everyone just will come up and talk to you and talk to each other, and the vibe is very different. I found in European music spaces. Yeah.
So that's interesting you say that, because I find in my limited experience in New York when I went to that gig, I thought
that's probably very different.
No, I thought they were super reserved there.
Really?
So like what you were saying about London, that's how I felt about New York. I was expecting to see some crazy shit when I went to what's the name of that fucking venue?
St. Vitus Bar.
Not St. Vitus. It's a famous one, and I can never remember the bloody name to it. It's where At the Gates performed.
Madison Square Garden?
It wasn't. It definitely wasn't Madison Square Garden.
I don't know. That's the only two venues I know in New York.
That would have been the most underbooked show of all time. Enslaved at Madison Square Garden. That'd be amazing.
Hell, I'd go.
I'd go. Yeah, fuck it. I mean,
that'd be sick.
It's going to come to me eventually, but I'm not even going to try and waste any more time trying to remember it. But it was. I'm actually still trying to remember it.
I could tell.
But it was. But yeah, no, they were super reserved, and I was just like, fuck. These guys are even more like fucking like reserved than a London show, because I do know that London can be. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit snooty in it. We get all the bands coming through, so we've seen it all, we've done it all.
Not always. I mean, like last time I saw Sleep, there was a fucking mosh pit. So it depends on the day as well, like who's coming. I guess I don't know. I don't want to like shit talk all of London, despite the fact that we're Londoners, but like it's night and day between here and Europe, and I think a lot of bands who tour will say the same thing. I've heard,
No, I'll remember the name of it. It'll come to me eventually. I'll recall it in a future episode.
You'll be halfway through a meal, and then you'll just be like,
yeah. It's such a famous venue as well, but I can't fucking remember the name of it. But such is my life.
The Carnegie Hall.
No. Just. But it's I will say, like, if this band, if Slaegt ever decide to come through London again, like, I'll definitely be going to watch them, because I feel like they've done a great job with this album, and I think that it's they seem to be going down the same route as bands like Enslaved and Opeth and other bands that are finding a niche in their fusion of genres and kind of settling into it. And I feel like this is the first album where they've really settled into it. Whereas, like, like the albums before, it's been more like a transition and experimentation of different sounds and influences. So I'm excited.
Hell yeah! I hope we get to catch them live. Maybe they're playing Hellfest.
Maybe everyone is.
Get a magnifying glass and check the lineup.
Yeah, I tried to look at it the other day, and I was thinking like, fuck, I can't read this.
I think they made another announcement because I've seen a bunch of bands like recently over the past few days be saying they're on it. So yeah, hopefully soon we'll have another wave. Nice. Yeah,
I think the things as well. It's one of those things where obviously there's still a lot of logistical and just many issues around the world at the moment that prevent people from touring. So even if half the people pull out at Hellfest, it's still going to be the best lineup.
It's true.
It'll
just be easier to plan if that happens. So not the end of the world. I'm sure they'll just announce some more local bands instead. Yeah. Shall we move on to Meshuggah and Immutable?
Let's do it.
What did you think of this?
So, I'll speak a little bit about my first experience with Meshuggah, because the first album I listened to theirs, which I actually struggled to get into, was Chaosphere.
No way.
Which is, I think, probably, not sure if it's the heaviest album. I think it's the most intense album. So it's probably the most mechanical one. And for the longest time, and I've spoken to many people who've had a similar experience with this band, I think for someone that's untrained and not skilled as a musician or music theory, it takes a while for your brain to kind of click with what the fuck has gone on with this band. And it was like that with me as well. So I was thinking, these riffs sound cool, but my brain can't comprehend it.
Okay.
But then when it does click, it's kind of then the penny drops.
Uh-huh.
And it clicked with me when I went back and picked up I was going to say the first album, but it's actually their second album, Destroy, Erase, Improve. Whereas the first album is kind of like the incarnation of the bands that they are still kind of like now, the prog progenitors of gent. I hate that term.
I hate it so much.
Just it's not a genre.
I mean, it technically is. It technically, I said, but this isn't a gent podcast. Fuck it. We're not going to. Yeah.
But I listened to a Destroy, Erase, Improve, and it blew my mind, especially the track Future Breed Machine. Remember when we were listening to that?
That is such a good track.
So fucking that breakdown is ridiculous.
Oh my God.
And I've said this before, it was one of those times where it was just so intense I had to pause it, and I was just like,
oh bless you.
My adrenaline spiking. I was like, I need to be in a more aggressive mind.
They do make you aggressive.
This track.
Yeah.
But yeah, and ever since then they've always been a band that I've followed. Not too much though, not so much with the last few albums.
Same.
The Violent Sleep of Reason. I've got their Bandcamp up just to make sure I'm getting.
Was that 2018?
Right. That's the 2016 album.
2016. Oh my God.
So did listen to that, enjoyed it. I feel like there's two eras of Meshuggah. You've got the earlier era, which is a little bit more kind of progressive and experimental when they were kind of finding their feet a bit. And I feel like once they released Nothing and they saw how well received the grooviness was, that's where they kind of stuck with that sound, and they've kind of been going along that kind of wavelength since. And it's funny because they actually re-recorded Nothing, didn't they, with a 7-string guitar. So I think it was originally played on 6 strings and they recorded it with 7 strings. But I've never listened to the other version. I've listened to the original version, but not the 7-string one. But I know people lost their shit for the 7-string one, and I think that was kind of the birth of gent and everything. I could be, and I probably am, fucking up
I don't know
all my facts there.
I don't
But that's what I have buried in my mind from when it came out.
To me, it's just I'm not a guitarist, but it's you can still play the same notes on the guitar. It's just in a different position.
They play 9 strings now.
Wow, well done. 9 strings.
Well done.
Well done. Well done, Meshuggah. Pat on the back. You can play lots of strings.
But this album in particular, so I will say for the record, Immutable, I love this album. I love everything Meshuggah's ever done.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely a very worthy addition to their back catalogue. And they've still got basically the core lineup. They've still got Jens Kidman on vocals, Frederick Thordendal, the wizard on guitars.
They still got Harker?
Thomas Harker, just the absolute fucking...
chef's kiss of, yeah.
Yeah, it's just... I love listening to drums, and I'm just I don't know what the fuck's going on. My favorite clip. You ever seen Bill Burr talking about going watching Meshuggah live? And he's just losing his mind. He's talking about the track "Bleed," of course.
That's so cute.
But he's just trying to describe what he's doing. He's playing one beat with his hands, and then a different beat with his feet, and it's just he's just totally losing it. But it's and you got Martin Hagstrom on guitars. He's been a long time member, and even Dick Lovgren. Sounds like a porn star name, doesn't it?
That's a good porn star name.
He's been the bassist since the IEP, so that's coming up to about 18 years as well. So so I think it's funny because when a band's got such a sort of steadfast lineup, I think it's easy for them to just be releasing an album that's kind of by the numbers and a bit boring. But I do think that, fans of Meshuggah will definitely love this album. And I feel like, especially of the groovier Meshuggah style. And there's some great moments on this album. And I've been talking way too much. So it's time for you to tell me what you think about this album.
You can talk as much as you like. This is the space for it. But I will tell you my experience with Meshuggah as well. They were my favorite band for a very long time when I was a little person at the age of 14, 15, which is when I got into them. The first band short. I don't have any band shorts. The first band shirt I ever bought was a Meshuggah shirt. So they have a special place in my heart. It was in Metal Militia in Camden. It was £20, so fucking expensive. But I still have it. And it still looks new because I very rarely actually wear my band shirts because they're so unflattering. However, I love Meshuggah. They're one of the first bands I ever interviewed as well.
Oh, nice.
I was shitting bricks before I interviewed them, and it went really well. We talked about World of Warcraft, so I always think of them as friendly World of Warcraft people playing their dwarves in Azeroth.
So I'm guessing they were Horde then, were they? Or were they?
I actually think one of them was Alliance, the guy I talked to, which is surprising. I can't remember. I hope I've not accidentally libeled Meshuggah by saying that they play Alliance, but I feel like
Corpse Grinder's coming for them.
I mean, Alliance is fun to play, but you always pick Horde. Come on, Horde is better. Anyway, so yeah, they're really, really nice guys. They're really lovely. I love their music so fucking much. And like, it's interesting hearing you talk about them not clicking straight away, because Meshuggah clicked with me immediately.
Oh, really? It's interesting.
Yeah. But I mean, I was like, I've always been quite musical, so maybe that's part of it. It was like really interesting for me to listen to. It was like juicy ear material. I don't tune out, especially the early Meshuggah years. Whereas, yeah, I think because they were my favorite band for such a long time, I'd already been into them for like over a decade by the time Violent Sleep of Reason came out. So I don't know why, but I didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
So this is the first Meshuggah album I've listened to in like 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's good because I needed a reason to rekindle my love for them, because I've always liked them. I always like what they do. I like that they're not just doing a 4/4 beat all the time, because that is my pet peeve when it comes to the majority of music. So it's nice they're doing something different. I like the groove. I like that they're groovy as well. That's the thing with gent that sometimes I do actually like a lot of gent. I won't admit it normally, but they do sometimes forget that you're supposed to enjoy the music that you're listening to with that genre. So yeah, Meshuggah, like the big daddy of the good, groovy, interesting music.
Yeah, no, that should be on the next little sticker you get on the front of the album of vinyl. The big daddies of groove.
Yeah, totally.
But it's, and do you know what? In this album in particular, they are doing a lot of interesting shit as well. Like, I do like that they do like to, keep it fresh. There's even with the, I think me and Shem were actually talking about this, there's that little 2-minute interlude called Black Cathedral, which is basically like a black metal like track. Sounds like something off like a Nagura Bunget album, however the fuck you pronounce that band name. Probably butchered that.
I use those to unblock my toilet.
Yeah. But no, that was just really cool. And like, they are the masters, in my opinion, of repetition. Because, and this is a long album. It clocks in at like an hour and 6 minutes. And, you've got to really stay the course with a Meshuggah album. Like but it's a rewarding listen, by the masters of repetition. What I mean by that is they're so good at, finding a particular groove or rhythm that works really well and making you wait before they make that transition.
And they develop it.
Or kick it up a gear. And, like the tracks, there's 2 tracks in particular that I think do, great examples of that on this album, like Abysmal Eye, the second track on the album, and Kaleidoscope as well. I thought that was a great track.
Yeah.
Like, I love the way, like, because they're so technically proficient. So when they switch it up that it's going to hit super fucking hard. And, and it's almost like you'll when you listen to a track and they've been playing the same beat and groove for sometimes 3, 4, 5 minutes, and you're just thinking, you're just there, and you love the groove, but you're thinking, you're just patiently waiting for it to hit, and then it does, and it's just even more rewarding.
Yeah, I like that they give you a little break halfway through with the instrumental. They move below just to kind of like help you cleanse your palate before they throw you straight into the abyss again.
Yeah, no, and it's actually welcomed, especially when the album clocks in at that length, because you're going to need a few breathers just to kind of recuperate a bit, which is why I enjoy Frederick Thordendale's guitar solos so much as well, because it's just so cool to have such a pummeling rhythm section. You get this like jazzy, like spidery guitar solo coming in, and it's just he's got that sound just down to such a unique and identifiable guitar sound. And have you ever listened to his side project, actually?
What's it called?
It's called Frederick Thordendale's Special Defects.
No, I've not. That's a very specific side project
But
name.
it's just him doing crazy shit on the guitars. But it's worth listening to. It's good fun. I think he's released 2 albums.
Sick.
But could be wrong. But I just love the fact that you can tell that they think about how they craft the wall of sound on each track, and it's. Just even the first track as well kind of reminds me. It was more of an intro than anything else. Broken Cog, which is a great name for a Meshuggah track.
Yeah,
kind of reminded me a bit of. You ever listen to Brujeria?
I've not, because I don't know why. I just haven't.
Well, they're like a gimmicky kind of band. They're like a super group. They've had like. I think, was Bill Steer in Brujeria at one point?
Really?
No. Jeff
Bill
Walker.
Steer.
Sorry, Jeff Walker was in there. Had Dino Cazares.
Oh, wow.
But they pretend to be like members of the Mexican cartel. That's like their gimmick.
Oh my god.
But there is a Mexican person.
Okay.
Is Juan Brujo is the vocalist who is Mexican.
One Mexican person.
But anyway, what that band is all about aside, they had an album called Brujerismo, and the first track on that album sounds exactly like this track, Broken Cog. Like the groove is so similar. This is just like a more syncopated, like polyrhythmic version.
That's so funny.
Of the title track on
Brujeria Cog.
Yeah.
Several members of Brujeria are Hispanic.
Okay, thank God. All right. That's like if Lowen, if you guys just all started pretending to be Mullers or something. I don't know. If you just started wearing like.
Yeah, Shane Embry's been in it from the beginning.
That's amazing. So who are the Spanish people?
It's a vocalist, I think.
The other ones. Okay. That's a crazy super group.
Well, they've all got names like Insane Ron, Hongo Jr.
Shem, you can stop using the accent now.
But yeah, Broken Cog, listen to that. Listen to
us problematically outing ourselves on this podcast. Ooh.
Yeah, it sounds like Brujeria.
Okay.
Is what I'm getting at. That's the long and skinny of the point I was making.
I don't want to.
Oh God.
To the weird polyrhythms. I think I'm in a nightmare scenario now. I have some takes on the lyrics of this album.
Go for it.
That I shared with you guys earlier. So, Meshuggah have a song, the 12th song on the album called Armies of the Preposterous. I'm going to read the lyrics and you'll see. A pandemic. This contagion you embrace, the poison that seeps from your piteous souls, armies of the preposterous, trapped in misguided thrall. Your mere existence shames us all. I will never assimilate to your point of view. I see your vision, this bleak truth you contrive. Plandemic? That's not a lyric, but plandemic?
That seems to be kind of what they're going for there, doesn't it?
I can only interpret that as thus, personally. So that's a lyric that they put in their album on the track Armies of the Preposterous, which I assume is about people who believe the virus is real.
Potentially. Obviously, it's I will say that's probably my favourite track on the album. Musically, that is by far the most interesting track.
I think it's probably the one they were committed to the most.
But yeah, which is unusual because it is like it's technically the last track on the album, because the last track, Past Tense, is just more of like a clean, jazzy outro more than anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I suppose who knows? Maybe someone will interview Jens Kidman at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe ask him what it's all about. Maybe he can confirm it.
If he can get into the country with his unvaccinated status, I guess.
But then, actually, I don't know, because I don't think Jens actually does the lyrics.
Who does
for
the
Meshuggah.
lyrics?
I think they share duties.
Oh.
I seem to have it in my mind that Thomas Harker.
Yeah, I always thought it was Harker. In my head, it was Harker. I was like, damn, Harker. I didn't know you...
Don't know. I'm just loading up this for a second because I feel like it might be noted on online, but
yeah.
Lyrical duties. So Jan Kidman's not involved in lyrics at all. If we're going by Encyclopedia Metallum, it's shared by Martin and Thomas.
Okay, well, there you go. They that's the song, and that's what's in the song. So yeah, I mean, not my point of view at all. Not into that kind of thing, but I thought I would mention it's in the album so people know.
No, it's you've seen it become an issue with some bands. So I mean, that's what
Yeah.
they're kind of hinting that's what happened to the Opeth drummer, right?
Yeah, it's happened to a lot of drummers actually.
Yeah.
It's always the drummers.
But it's I think it just goes to show that one for a start, like everyone knows that obviously the virus is still a threat. I mean, everyone can see that there's still so many cases out there.
Most people can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's I think it just goes to show that really, and I don't want to sound too kind of black-pilled or pessimistic here, but I do think like things are far from over.
Yeah.
Like I think, there's a lot of people I think who are presuming that things are back to normal, and I'm thinking I don't think anything could really go back to normal after what's been happening. I think, it's more wishful thinking at this point to think that, I look at some lineups to festivals, even Hellfest, I'm thinking like,
half these bands.
how the fuck are all these bands going to get here?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems a logistical nightmare. And I feel sorry for organizers of these festivals because, I mean, it would have taken years off my life to be knowing that this is your main source of revenue as well and income for everything to be in such jeopardy. And obviously things were cancelled for good reason. I'm not saying it wasn't. But it's just been a fucking mental 2 years. And, I think, judging by, like lyrics on this album and, certain stances of other people, it just shows that, that it's just such chaotic times out there, and there's so much information and misinformation, and and I think this is where the online climate can be a really toxic place sometimes, because you're going to get echo chambers for whatever it is you believe, and you're going to have enough. If you shout into the void, there's always going to be someone shouting back at you, and and it's just that's why I'm fucking done with Twitter. But the reason I'm done with Twitter is because the internet wrestling community is on fire at the moment. And I'm just fucking done with different companies bashing each other.
You're putting them on ice?
Yeah, I am. I'm just fucking done with it. Twitter's just so negative a lot of the time. And like, it does have some good in it, but I don't know. Maybe I'll get a TikTok finally.
Twitter's like, oh, you should totally get TikTok. It's great.
I know everyone keeps telling me.
Yeah, TikTok is definitely the antithesis of Twitter, which is why Shem is shaking his head, because he's more of like a Twitter vibe. I go on Twitter when I'm kind of annoyed, because it's such a perfect format to complain with, because it's like, short, you can just complain, and then you open it again and like 5 angry men are explaining to you why you're wrong, which is great. But yeah, I mean, I could totally understand why, like, I obviously don't agree with this stance, but I can see why a lot of musicians end up thinking this way, feeling so strongly about the pandemic, because it affects them so much, because everything you do as a musician is about people wanting to come to your shows, being available to consume your music. The best way to do that is to be able to go to different countries, meet all these people, play all these shows, so many tours being cancelled. If you're a band of that level, you're at some point in an album cycle, so obviously it's completely fucked over so many people. So I totally understand why they'd be so angry and why they'd be so passionate about it. I think that sometimes it's easier to go down a particular path when you're in that situation, and sometimes it's easier to believe things aren't necessarily real, or to believe you've been wronged somehow by people following like the news. And like, I think people can mix up being angry at the obvious corruption around them and mixing that with something else. Yeah. And then it actually accidentally backfiring and making the problems worse.
And I think compounded by the fact that, let's be honest, most people in power are not trustworthy at all.
Yeah, they're all corrupt. I mean, this government is like literally laughing at us, having parties and laughing at us. Yeah.
And that's something everyone can agree on.
Like,
is the fact that, like most fucking people in charge of, multinational, corporations and stuff like that are just fucking just terrible people.
Yeah, and like the structure of our economy is just wrong. It doesn't work. It's destroying the things that are the most important for our survival, and yet we're still doing it because we have, like, us little people, we're a broken cog. Like, we have no choice, right? Yeah.
We're just part of this giant, dissonant, rhythmic, grooving
grinding
beast
machine.
of a machine.
So it
We're
turns
living
out
in Chaosphere by Meshuggah.
we were the Meshuggah album all along.
It's like, is it cake? It was just like we were Meshuggah
Are
all
we
along.
Meshuggah? We just
Yeah.
start taking off our skin. We're all Thomas Harker.
Yeah. I mean, I could probably pass for Jens Kidman. Actually, I've got the same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have to Google them.
but I probably can't do his vocals. He is the master of the fry scream, by the way. I mean,
Nice.
I respect the fact that that guy found a vocal style. Was just like, fuck it, this is all I'm going to do for my career. one tone, like a bit of clean vocals. Like they don't have as because sometimes I think Frederick used to do back-end vocals.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the robotic things that he would synthesize through like an amp or something. That was super cool. Like there's not much of that on this album or any, if I remember correctly. But like, yeah, Jens Kidman, just that man. He was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna fucking just absolutely fry my vocals every single album. But it sounds fucking cool, and he's the best at fried screaming. So
Have you seen the faces he makes when he performs?
he's an amazing frontman.
I just love the weird thing he does with his mouth where he looks like a meme. He's just like, I can't do it.
Just the fucking stance as well. Just
It's
like,
just
yeah.
like down on
Yeah,
it.
that was it. Yeah, Shane's got it down to a T.
It's so funny. You should be a wrestler.
No.
That'd be great.
They're so fucking good live as well. Like,
Yeah,
you
they're
can't
so
talk about
good.
Meshuggah and not talk about how absolutely phenomenal they are as a live band.
The fact they do that live is mind blowing, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just sounds amazing. The lights, the production, everything. I saw their 25-year anniversary tour
Amazing.
at the Roundhouse, which was in 2014. And they played, it was like a 2-hour set. And I got a fucking banging headache by the time I left. But,
I bet. It's like a
but-
migraine.
yeah. But I was just like, fuck it, it was worth it because it was just like, and it was funny because, and I think I don't mean to sound like an insult, but everyone was so energetic, and by the end, everyone was just punished. We were just there like, fucking hell. It's just like, we were enjoying it, but it's so cathartic. We're just like, oh my God, I'm glad it's over because that was just
It's
so
consensual
rhythmically
torture.
intense.
That's
But
what she said. I'm sorry.
I didn't even know I was fucking saying anything remotely sexual.
I'm
then,
so
but there you go.
sorry. Perhaps it wasn't, but just there's something about that phrase.
Well, I was
tickled
hard
me.
at that show, I'll tell you that.
On that note, we should probably end the podcast so we can all calm ourselves down to that talk of the rhythmic pounding of Meshuggah, the evil fucking craziness of Friends of Hell, and the shrill theatrics of Slaegt. So thank you for watching. Feel free to like and subscribe. And thank you for listening.
And suggest any albums to us that you want us to review. Always open for suggestions.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Thanks and goodbye.
Till next time.